Hello and a very warm welcome to another edition of Talking Germany, the show where we do just that. Now, nearly everybody, of course, has heard of the huge Oktoberfest that takes place in the Bavarian capital of Munich each and every year. Now, at the heart of this massive festival of beer, food, music and revelry are the huge beer tents. And it all starts in the legendary Schottenhamel tent, where the mayor of Munich traditionally taps the very first keg. Well, together with his cousin, the man who runs that tent is Peter Schottenhamel, and he is our guest today. Thank you very, very much for joining us today.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah. Let's begin at the very beginning. What is the Oktoberfest and how did it all begin?
The Oktoberfest is the biggest beer fest in the world. It started 200 years ago when a Bavarian prince married a princess from Saxonia. Mm-hmm. And because of this marriage, they made a big horse race. Because
horse race?
Horse race, yes. And the Munich population, they liked this horse race so much that they got the idea to do it every year. Mm-hmm. And if you do an event like this, Bavarians, they are thirsty, they are hungry. So one got the idea and said, okay, I sell beer and I sell something to eat. And this started approximately the year 1867, when, beside others, my great-grandfather got the idea to run a place on the Oktoberfest. They opened the ground to get water to wash the mugs, and they had it was not a real tent, it was just a place where you could sit down and eat and drink. And this ended by the end of 1800, we had the first tent with 8,000 people. Mm-hmm. We were the first one who had electric light, and there's a very nice story. Mm-hmm. The company who started the electricity in our tent was a company called Einstein and Key, two brothers from Augsburg, and they had a son called Einstein too. And he, in his holidays, he was a student, he put bulbs.
This is the Einstein?
The Albert Einstein. He earned money and put bulbs. And we have in a tent like now, we have about 10,000 bulbs.
That would have been hard work for Mr. Einstein.
So he had a good job. But this is a very nice story what happened.
Wonderful. Peter Schottenhamel, did my colleague who did that report in the English version, did he get it right with "Ozapft ist"? Was his pronunciation good?
Yes, it was perfect.
That's a big moment, isn't it?
Yes,
it's a big honour for you that it takes place in your tent.
We had one Lord Mayor who forgot to say "Ozapft ist."
Really? When was that?
It was about before Obe Ude, I think about 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah?
And what happened? They didn't elect him again.
So it's the mayor who does. How difficult is it? How many goes do they need normally?
Well, our Lord Mayor Ude now, he makes it with 2. Really, he could.
He's had a lot of practice, hasn't he? He's been in office for quite a while.
Yes, yes. And I think each of them, they started to prove it before. First, they take an empty barrel. Mm-hmm. Then they take a barrel with water, filled with water, and then they have a barrel filled with beer. And because it can be a mess.
And it's a question of honour, isn't it? It's a question of honour. So that's what the Lord Mayor does. The ordinary people in your tent, how do they spend the evening? Is it just a beer festival, or there's more to it than that, isn't there?
Well, they stand on the banks, they dance, they sing, they enjoy their time. Yeah. And they enjoy, of course, our good, lovely Bavarian beer.
OK. And how difficult is it to get a seat in your tent?
It's not so easy. If you come in at lunchtime, it's very easy to get a seat. Usually...
you can just turn up and walk in, more or less.
Just walk in, it's plenty of place. Mm-hmm. Just after 4 o'clock, it's hard. We have about 6,000 seats inside, and 2,000 seats are not reserved. But if you come about 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock, you won't find a seat empty. Just those seats which are reserved, because these people, they come at 4, 4:30.
OK. So it's a lot of people who come to your tent, yeah? A lot of people have been looking at Germany recently with great sadness and great concern because of the events in Duisburg around the Love Parade Music Festival, where there were a number of deaths, obviously.
Yeah.
There must be a lot of concern on your part. I know that you organise these things very well, but you must have been thinking about it again since Duisburg.
Of course we think about it, but you can't compare it. The place where the Oktoberfest takes part is a big, big place, and there are plenty of possibilities to leave this place. You just have just one little entrance where you move in and out.
Yeah.
I don't think that a thing like this can happen on Oktoberfest.
There's been a lot of discussion this time round. You Bavarians, you're very independent-minded people, and one way that that's expressed itself is that Bavaria's been very easygoing on smoking laws, much more easygoing than other parts of Germany. But now that's all changed. Now the laws have become much more strict. There was a talk for a while that that wasn't going to apply to the Oktoberfest. Yeah. What's the latest situation there?
Well, the new law about smoking started on the 1st of August. Of course, this year, Oktoberfest, it's no smoking. But the police and officials told us they won't fine us this year. We have to make exercise or practice how we will handle this next year. Yeah. And this is really not easy, because there won't a lot of problems.
Let's talk about the people who turn up in your tent. We've mentioned already a lot of young people, a lot of students. Is that, Politicians?
Of course, politicians.
Do they just come along for the photo op, or do they stay?
Of course they stay too.
Yeah?
They stay too. They enjoy it.
They drink a lot? They behave badly?
Of course, of course.
It's another way to get your name in the...
One opening of Oktoberfest, Mr. Hurst, the English minister, he came and he stayed about 4 or 5 hours. And he liked it.
There you go. Yeah. Well, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, we've just been talking about young people. Young people in Munich are very, very chic indeed, I can tell you. And during the Oktoberfest, chic means Dirndl and Lederhosen. So how many pairs of Lederhosen do you have?
Well, I have one pair long, then I have 3 knickerbockers.
Knickerbockers?
And then I have 2 short ones.
You have 2 pairs above your knees?
Yes.
Do you have good knees?
Of course.
Yeah?
And what we say, what's very important, good Wadel.
Oh, a good calf. Yeah. That's very interesting. That's very traditional, yeah. In other countries, that was in the 19th century. That was very important to have good calves, The young people who are getting dressed up these days, are they doing it just for fun, or are they doing it because they've begun to have a sort of a new sense of tradition and what have you?
In Bavaria, it's part of life, and especially in the countryside. When people on Sundays go to church, they go in Tracht. Yeah. They have dirndl.
So traditional costume.
Yeah, traditional costume. Yeah. And this is even in the cities. And Oktoberfest, it's a Bavarian fest. It's an old fest. Yeah. So they have, of course, traditional clothes on.
You've been going to the Oktoberfest you've been involved directly in the Oktoberfest for decades now. What's been the biggest change in that period?
I would say about 20, 25 years ago, the young people invented Oktoberfest new.
Oh.
Before, the average age in a tent was about, I would say, 35 to 40, 45. Now it's 20, 25. And it's in, we say.
It's youth culture.
Youth culture.
Oh, wow, And what about foreign visitors? When did that really take off, that lots and lots of foreigners would be coming to the Oktoberfest?
Has always been the case? Since years.
And do you get a lot of foreign visitors in your tent?
I would say about, in our tent, 75% comes from Munich, 15% comes from Bavaria, and then maybe 10% from Germany and 10% abroad.
And in your tent, you're the Wirt, what the Germans call the Wirt. You're the host.
Yes.
Yeah. But you can't go around to all of these thousands of people and look after them individually. How do you make sure that they are being looked after?
We have a TV in our office, and we have 12 cameras in the tent and in the garden to look what's happened. Yeah. To look if the walking passes are full or not, and to look what happens. Good. And sometimes I go even and say hello to some people, to some guests, especially on the opening when the city of Munich invites about 400, 500 people for the opening, of course I go to the tables too.
Great stuff, yeah. We're going to talk about a couple more aspects of Bavarian culture, both of which are, of course, found in abundance at the Oktoberfest, and they are Weißwurst and Weissbier.
It's 10 o'clock in Bavaria and time for a breakfast of veal sausage, sweet mustard and wheat beer, also known as Bavarian cappuccino. The beer is served in tall, narrow glasses. It tastes fresh and bubbly and is brewed according to centuries-old rules guaranteeing purity. The veal sausage is also strictly regulated. It's 9 centimeters long and is made mostly of finely ground veal and parsley. 250,000 of them are sold in and around Munich every day. And tradition has it that they should all be eaten by 11 in the morning. Eating the white sausage is considered by some an art form. Locals like the suckling method. They bite the end off and suck out the meat. Experts know a more elegant method.
You poke a hole in the front and cut across the sausage. But don't cut all the way through. Then you press the skin to the plate with a knife and twist the meat out. After you poke the open side of the sausage, cut across it. Again, don't cut right through. Press it down and twist the next bit out. You eat other food with a knife and fork, and you do the same thing with veal sausage.
But however they're eaten, Bavarians love their specialities.
Well, Peter Schottenhamel and I were just looking at that demonstration of how to eat or how not to eat Weißwurst. I would eat it with a knife and fork. I'm that kind of person. You would laugh at me for doing that.
No. You have the Weißwurst is something anyone can eat it the way he wants it.
Oh, and how do you do it? Go on.
Well, I take a fork and a knife, and I cut it in the middle, and then I make a little
a slit down the edge,
and then I turn it out. That's the easiest way. Otherwise, you can, what we say, tutzel it out.
What does that mean? That
just like
that kind of noise.
Perfect too. Weißwurst and Weissbier is the best after a long night, and especially when you have a hangover.
I see. And this thing about the Weißwurst that you've got to, you shouldn't let the white sausage hear the chimes of midday. Is that still true today?
No.
Nah.
This used to be when we didn't have frigiders.
Yeah.
Now we have frigiders, and you can eat all day long.
But you can remember this as a boy in Bavaria in your little lederhosen, being 7 years old, having your Weißwurst as an early morning snack.
Yeah.
Well, what is the connection between Bavaria and beer anyway? What's the big connection there?
Well, the first German brewery started in the year 1000, and it was in Freising,
which is near Munich.
It's close to Munich, 40 kilometers away from Munich, in Weinstefan. And in 1516, we had the so-called Bavarian purity law, which was taken over by the Deutsches Reich.
Which still applies today.
Still applies today, which is a guarantee that our beer, especially Bavarian beer, of course, is the best beer in the world.
Bavaria, you're talking about Bavarian history there. Bavaria likes to project itself as a place of tradition and modernity. There's the catchphrase that everybody uses is Lederhose and laptop. Yeah. Is that just publicity, or is it really Bavaria?
I think it's really Bavaria. And we say the Oktoberfest is a lovely mixture of high-tech and tradition.
Ooh.
It's the same.
We saw you in that report at the beginning. You had a big mass of beer at the end of the evening. Is that's really you? That's really the disciplined Peter Schottenhamel.
That's really me. I take this beer and it takes me half an hour. Slowly, I drink it and then I go home.
Okay.
And that's a guarantee too that I sleep well.
Super. He's been telling me he's a very sporty fellow. He's a very disciplined fellow. We're going to talk about that in just a second. While Peter Schottenhamel was watching that film, he uttered the same German word twice. The German word for incredible, unbelievable. He said, Wahnsinn, Wahnsinn. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah? I know you're a big opera fan. Are you going to go along and watch that movie?
No.
No?
I don't think so. I think I get old.
You get old anyway?
Anyway, and can watch myself in the mirror.
Ah, very wise, very wise, yeah. You are, though... You're the kind of person who sets himself new challenges, I have the feeling. Yeah? What new challenges have you got for the future?
Well, it's very easy to say to stay like I am, because I feel great, I feel good.
What sports do you do?
Swimming, in winter skiing, scuba diving.
Ooh.
I have 2 big dogs, going with the dogs, and.
But during the season, you must. During the Oktoberfest, you work from morning till night.
No time for anything.
Yeah. And these people. Tell me that the women who actually carry the beer.
Yeah.
That looks like a bit of a sport. You need good muscles and a lot of good technique.
Of course.
What's the largest number that, generally speaking, of mass beer things?
Generally, for example, I can carry 12.
You can carry 12?
Yes.
Yeah.
And a good waitress can carry 12 too. I think the average is 10. And anything what's over 12, it's too heavy. If you just do it for a picture, they can carry 16 or 18.
But 12 is...
just for 2 meters. 12, it's easy.
I see. In the dossier I got about you, Peter Schottenhamel, it said he is always optimistic.
Yes.
Are you optimistic about the future of the Oktoberfest? You must be.
Of course.
You have every reason to be.
I think I'm not the person who wakes up in the morning and say what's going to happen wrong today. I say everything will be good.
I'm going to ask you 3 quick quiz questions.
Yes.
Yeah? We have a quiz at the end. Are you a German or a Bavarian?
I'm first Bavarian and second German.
In fact, I'm going to reduce it to just one more question. Is Bavaria a place of the past or a place of the future?
Bavaria is the place of past and future.
I knew he was going to say that. Mr. Oktoberfest, Peter Schottenhamel, has been our guest. If you've enjoyed his company as much as I have, come back next week. Until then, tschüss.